Thursday, March 25th, 1943. Dear Kitty, yesterday Mummy, Daddy, Margot, and I were sitting pleasantly together when suddenly Peter came in and whispered something in Daddy's ear. I heard something about a barrel fallen over in the warehouse and someone fumbling about at the door. Margot had heard it too, but when Daddy and Peter went off immediately, she tried to calm me down a bit because I was naturally as white as a sheet and very jittery. The three of us waited in suspense. A minute or two later, Mrs. Van Daan came upstairs. She had been listening to the wireless in the private office. She told us that Pym had asked her to turn off the wireless and go softly upstairs. But you know what that's like. If you want to be extra quiet, then each step of the old stair creaks twice as loudly. 5 minutes later, Pym and Peter appeared again, while to the roots of their hair, and told us their experience. They had hidden themselves under the stairs and waited, with no results at first, but suddenly, yes, I must tell you, they heard two loud bumps, just as if two doors were banged here in the house. Pym was upstairs in one leap. Peter warned Dussel first, who finally landed upstairs with a lot of fuss and noise. Then we all went up in the Starkenden feet in the Van Daans on the next floor. Mr. Van Daan had a bad cold and had hardly gone to bed, so we all drew up closely around his bed and whispered our suspicions to him. It's like somebody is in the house with them. Each time Mr. Van Daan coughed loudly, Mrs. Van Daan and I were so scared that we thought we were going to have a fit. That went on until one of us got the bright idea of giving him some codeine, which soothed the cough at once. Again we waited and waited, but we heard no more, and finally we came to the conclusion that the thieves had taken their heels when they heard footsteps in the house, which was otherwise so silent. Now it was unfortunate that the wireless downstairs was still turned to England, and the chairs were neatly arranged around it. If the door had been forced, and the air raid wardens had noticed and warned the police, then the results might have been very unpleasant. So Mr. Van Daan got up and put on his coat and hat and followed Daddy cautiously downstairs. Peter took up the rear, armed with a large hammer in case of emergencies. The ladies upstairs, including Margot and me, waited in suspense until the gentleman reappeared 5 minutes later and told us that all was quiet in the house. We arranged that we would not draw any water or pull the plug to the lavatory, but as the excitement had affected most of our tummies, you can imagine what the atmosphere was like when we had each paid a visit in succession. When something like that happens, heaps of other things seem to come at the same time as now. Number one was that the clock at the West German, which I always find so reassuring, did not strike. Number two was that Mr. Vossen, having left earlier than usual the previous evening, we didn't know definitely whether Eli had been able to get hold of the key and had perhaps forgot to shut the door. It was still evening, and we were still in a state of uncertainty, although we certainly did feel a bit reassured by the fact that from about 8 o'clock, when the burglar had alarmed the house, until 10:30 we had not heard a sound. On further reflection, it also seemed very unlikely to us that a thief would have forced open a door so early in the evening, while there were still people about in the street. Moreover, one of us got the idea that it was possible that the caretaker of the warehouse next door was still at work since, in the excitement and with the thin walls, one can easily make a mistake. And what's more, one's imagination could play a big part at such critical moments. So we all went to bed, but none of us could get to sleep. Daddy, as well as Mummy and Mr. Dussel, were awake, and without much exaggeration, I can say that I hardly slept a wink. This morning, the men went downstairs to see whether the outside door was still shut, and everything turned out to be quite safe. We gave everyone a detailed description of the nerve-wracking event. They all made fun of it, but it is easy to laugh at such things afterwards. Eli was the only one who took us seriously. Yours, Anne. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already, hit the comments button, say something, and hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. I'm trying to grow this channel, make it really good, make it really nice.